Okay, it's match 2 with blue-white Tron. Let's see if we can make it work this time. Our opponent has chosen to play first. So we have 4 Tron pieces, but only 2 unique pieces. Only 1 action spell, and we can't even cast it. So the best this hand can do is turn 1 tower, turn 2 mine, and cycle the remote isle away. And then turn 3, hope to hit an untapped white source for Oblivion Ring. That's pretty bad. I think I'm going to have to mulligan this hand. Now we have 1 land, but this hand is actually a little bit better. We just need 1 land to get to Prism, and then hopefully to get to Seagate Oracle. We'll throw away the map since we don't have a second mana to activate it. And see what our opponent is playing. Swiftwater Clips. Okay. We're probably playing against Is It Blitz version with Kiln Fiends. We have a Journey to Nowhere, but we do need to draw more lands before we can use it. Is It Blitz is a deck that can put the game away very quickly if you stumble. Okay, and it looks like we are stumbling. Go two draws without a land, which is certainly going to hurt us. And here comes the Kiln Fiend. Oh, Prophetic Prism of their own. That's interesting. I'm not really sure what we're playing against. Red, white, blue, I get I think it's called Kuldotha Jeskai. So they use Glint Hawk that returns an artifact to their hand whenever they play it. It's a white for a 2/2 flyer. And Aven Skirmisher, 2 mana, 2/3 flyer that bounces a permanent whenever it enters. And they get value off of these cantrip artifacts, such as these. And Kuldotha Rebirth, as a additional cost to cast it, you have to sack an artifact, and they get 3/1/1 tokens. So Seagate Oracle is going to be quite good against the 1/1s if we can get a third land to work with, which we cannot. So do we Journey to Nowhere a single 1/1, or do we play a Signet or a map? I think it's got to be Signet here. That way we're guaranteed that we're able to cast Seagate Oracle next turn and start being able to block. And we'll see how much more pressure our opponent puts on. Next turn, if we can go Oracle, find a Tron piece, that would be incredible. We're looking for Power Plant right now, since we already have Tower in mind. Okay, we're going to take our beats. We're taking 3 down to 17. See what our opponent can follow it up with. I was not aware that these lists played a Forgotten Cave, so I wasn't really sure what to think when I saw that. Let's see what they take here. Our Signet. Okay, now we really need to draw a land so we can still cast our Oracle. A tower. Well, not as good as a power plant, but it'll do something. So we were using our Prophetic Prism to filter to blue. Do we want a tap land or a Crusher? Since we already have a Crusher, we'll take the tap land, but we really do want untapped lands at this point. Or lands that produce white would be great, so we can play 2 white spells in the same turn or play a Rhystic Circle, of which we have drawn 2 already. I don't think this deck is very high on combat tricks, but they might want to go wide, and they might be willing to attack their goblins into the Seagate Oracle anyway. They may play a Bone Splitter, which a lot of aggro decks in the format tend to do, which would allow 1 goblin at a time to get past Seagate Oracle pretty well. Alright, after thinking for a bit, our opponent has decided to bolt our Seagate Oracle so they can continue getting in for damage with the goblins. Which means we might be forced to use Journey to Nowhere on tokens. Oh, okay, perfect. So this makes our plan pretty simple. We're going to play an Ulamog's Crusher, because we hit Tron. And then, as insurance, we're also going to play... We're going to cycle Remote Isle, play a map, or play a Journey to Nowhere. I think we'll play a Journey to Nowhere, because even in the worst case, this lets him have 1 less chump blocker, or 1 less permanent to sacrifice to Ulamog's Crusher. So it makes it harder for him to race this Crusher by sacrificing permanents he doesn't need, such as tokens and, say, Prism. Oh, also, Wellspring is a great thing to sacrifice, because when it enters the graveyard, they get to draw a card. So they do have removal for our Crusher, which is quite unfortunate. Which means the goblins are getting in for damage again. And they're also casting a Core Skyfisher. Probably going to pick up this Wellspring, so they can draw another card. Okay. And we are taking 2 this turn, down to 12. So we need to find another creature pretty quickly. A Repeal. Well, Repeal is good against a token. And this Journey to Nowhere is good against the Core Skyfisher. But we only have 1 colored mana right now. So I think we're going to use this Expedition map to go find an untapped land. I mentioned the deck tech, they're pretty important for situations like these. So we can go get an island or plains. I'm going to go get a plains because we're more likely to need double white if we want to try to cast a Rhystic Circle. I don't think it's quite time to do that yet. So let's start by repealing a token, making sure that resolves. I don't think they have a way to sacrifice creatures at instant speed. Okay. And then we can play a Journey to Nowhere and get rid of this Core Skyfisher. Now next turn we can play Rhystic Circle, or we can play Muldrifter, depending on what the situation looks like. If it looks like our opponent has a lot of creatures, too many for us to be able to activate Rhystic Circle a bunch of times and take care of, then we may want to not play Rhystic Circle and just cast the Muldrifter. Alright, we're getting Galvanic Blasted. This is fine. Going down to 8. This indicates that they might have more burn in hand, which is not fine. We'll see. Ichor Wellspring comes back. We knew they had that in hand. I should have cycled it from Isle on my turn in case I found a colorless spell to cast with it. But as it is, I'm going to go ahead and cycle it at the end of my opponent's turn. Bojuka Bog. We do not actually utilize our graveyard in this deck. Some decks do play a Haunted Fengraf to try to recur a Muldrifter or a Ulamog's Crusher, but this list specifically does not. Alright, another Crusher and a Muldrifter. So we're probably going to play both of those if we can. So we don't have enough mana for that. So we'll lead with the Muldrifter, and we will count on drawing more lands with which to be able to play this Crusher. We still have 6 mana, so if we draw any Tron land, then we can play Crusher this turn as well. Perfect. Play both of these spells. Now, even if they have a Journey to Nowhere, a single one, they can't get past our Muldrifter with a single Goblin. And we just have to fade a couple of Galvanic Blasts. I'm not exactly sure what's happening on here. Maybe a snap? Oh, Perilous Research, yes. Draw 2 cards and sacrifice a permanent, which actually reads draw 3 cards whenever they have an Ichor Wellspring in play, so that's a really sweet synergy that goes on in this deck. You play 2 and then another 2, and you draw a total of 4 cards. And we get Galvanic Blasted down to 3, so 1 more Galvanic Blast and we are dead. We could be stopping that damage with Rhystic Circle, but the problem with instant speed burn is that they can do it on your end step and leave up all their mana. So you'll pay with your Tron lands to negate that Galvanic Blast, but then you'll be tapped out on their turn, and they can attack you with creatures or use a Galvanic Blast main phase to kill you. So it is hard with Rhystic Circle to guard from instant speed damage, unfortunately. Alright, our opponent's casting a Journey to Nowhere, presumably taking the Ulamog. Okay. If we draw another Repeal, we can actually repeal one of their Journey to Nowheres on their end step, and maybe get an attack with an Ulamog, which could be good. If we're not forced to use it on their creatures. Okay, our opponent has decided to cast a Core Skyfisher, presumably picking out Prophetic Prism, but we will see. Yep, that's what they took, so they can draw another card with that if they wish. Okay, so we need to find a counter spell pretty quickly so we can counter that last Galvanic Blast that might be floating around. Although he's only used 2, hasn't he? Is this the 3rd? You could be dead. No, it's a Glinthawk. Alright, and they're going to pick up this Prophetic Prism or a land. Probably the Prism. And the Prism is returned. Okay. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana and 3 creatures, which means we need 10 mana. Condescends a little late in order to defend ourselves with Rhystic Circle. So if we play Rhystic Circle, we'll still have 1, 2, 3. We'll have 6 mana remaining, which is not enough. Seagate Oracle doesn't help because it does not block in the air. So we're going to go ahead and play the Expedition map, crack it for a tower since that's mana neutral. Play the Rhystic Circle and hope that our opponent does not see lethal. We also, unfortunately, do not have Condescend up while we do this, because we do not have another blue source. So we have 9 mana. Actually, did I miscount? Yeah, because I didn't count on getting the... No, that should have been the same. So we have 9 mana. They have 7 lands, so they can pay 7 times, and then we can negate all the damage from the 2 flyers and block the goblin. So as long as they don't have burn in hand, we should be okay. I guess we will see. Our opponent is leading off with a large spell. I'm not sure what it is at this point. Our opponent has cast a Mulldrifter of their own. And every card they draw is extremely scary since they have burn in the deck. Although at this point, this turn, we can pay for countering a burn with Rhystic Circle if they don't read it. They're attacking with Justice Skyfisher. Okay. So we're going to not block. And then we're going to activate Rhystic Circle. Okay. We'll activate it once, see if they'll pay. They choose not to pay, and since we're going to lose this mana anyway, when we go to the next step, I'll go ahead and activate it again. In case they have a, I don't know, way to animate a land. The only way they could deal damage outside of the combat phase would be with a card like a Galvanic Blast or a Fling. I can't target those except for when they're on this stack. So there's nothing really to be done about the extra mana left over with Rhystic Circle. And Prophetic Prism comes back. I would counter this if I had a blue source, but I do not, so I will not. Alright, our opponent has 4, 7, 11 creatures, or 11 mana plus creatures together, which is the important number for Rhystic Circle. And we have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we have more than them. They're getting an additional mana now, but we still have enough. Alright, I think I'm just going to leave up Condescend for now. We've got them on the Rhystic Circle lock, and we do not want to die to a burn spell. So we'll Condescend anything that would kill us, and otherwise we'll just wait. They're cycling the Forgotten Cave that they picked up with Is It Boilerworks to try to find a spell. Casting Prophetic Prism to draw a card. That's fine. Alright, opponent passes the turn. And it's our go. So at this point, I think I'm going to try playing a Prism. I need to find another blue source so that I can play a Seagate Oracle and Condescend in the same turn. As it is now, well, I guess I did find another blue source with the Prophetic Prism. Now I want to start capsizing. If I can capsize a Journey to Nowhere at the end of turn, that's pretty good for me. Alright, so they can pick up a Prism or a land with this, that's fine. There's no problems there. They take a Prism, presumably to recast it, and continue drawing through their deck. We just have to save this Condescend for a Galvanic Blast. Because if they know we have counterspells in our deck, they could be waiting for the right time to try to pull it off. That's why I'm probably not going to capsize end of their turn, because it would be too dangerous to tap out of blue mana. Although this game is almost lost, it might be worth it to try. Because as soon as they find 2 Galvanic Blasts, we're dead anyway. It's a greedy play, but it's one we might need to make. I'm not really sure. I think we can wait a little bit longer and try to resolve a Seagate Oracle on our next turn. Oh, a Tranquil Cove. If we get one more of those, then we'll be out of a single Galvanic Blast range, which will be incredible. So let's play a Seagate Oracle. We find another Condescend. Perfect. And we can't cast both of these this turn, but after this, then we'll have 2 counterspells up a turn, which might be enough to take this game away. Okay, play the mine and pass. We now have 14, 16 mana to our opponent's 5 plus 4, 9, 10, 11, 12. 16 mana plus creatures. So we're getting very close to not being able to pay for all the Rhystic circle activations. However, we do have blockers as well, so we don't have to pay for every single creature. Alright, now I'm going to go for it because I can't really afford to wait any longer. I'm going to filter 2 mana to blue, and I'm going to Capsize a Journey to Nowhere. This is a pretty dangerous play versus Perilous Research, because they could sacrifice the Journey to Nowhere in response, and then I wouldn't get the benefit of buying back my Capsize. But I feel like it's something that I have to try. Our opponent can quadruple block here, and trade a total of 3 permanents if they block with the Skyfisher. Well, 3 permanents, 3 creatures, and 2 other permanents if they want to. So we'll see if they try that. Our opponent casts Galvanic Blast, targeting Ulamog's Crusher instead of us. That's very curious. I'm going to go ahead and let that resolve. It's not really a problem if they double block and get rid of this, because then I can just use Capsize on the other Journey to Nowhere at the end of their next turn and have another Crusher. And at that point, they will not be able to kill it, because they'll only have 7 power on the battlefield. That's interesting. This has 4 damage marked on it, I believe, so I don't think they had to give me 3 creatures here, but they decided to. That might indicate they have a trick that they're about to pull off. Nope, okay, excellent. So we got rid of 2 lands, 3 creatures, and a Galvanic Blast on that turn. That's pretty excellent for the use of 1 Capsize that didn't even cast us a card since we bought it back. And our opponent used up a Galvanic Blast, which means they only have 1 left. And I think those are all the burn spells they play in the deck. Prophetic Prism and Ichor Wellspring, so they're keeping on drawing, trying to find something. And like game 1, we might just win this game by decking them. It is possible. We've got 2 Condescends in hand. The odds of them having more than 2 spells that matter aren't very high. So our opponent picked up the Oblivion Ring with Core Skyfisher that was locking down a Azorius Signet so that they could get rid of this Rhystic Circle. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick up my Rhystic Circle using... let me tap my mana better. Well, actually, this is... Is this good enough? Yeah, this is good enough. So I'm going to Capsize my Rhystic Circle with the Oblivion Ring trigger on the stack. So I get to keep it. And they cast Lightning Bolt targeting me. I don't think I mind this. The problem with this is that it indicates there are other Lightning Bolts in their deck. I feel like I just need to wait. So let's do the calculation again on how much mana I need with Rhystic Circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, plus 4 creatures is 14. After I recast Rhystic Circle next time, it'll cost me 4. So I have 9 plus 10 is 19. 21. So I'll cast Rhystic Circle and have 17 remaining to the 14 needed. So I'll have 3 mana left over. Our opponent probably should have done this on our turn. I'm trying to decide what to do right now. I think this is okay. I'm going to let this resolve. I'm only going to try to counter things that really matter, that actually kill us. Our opponent's going to attack here and is going to feed us this Goblin token. So I'm going to... Oh, I should have activated Rhystic Circle in response. Well, okay, so I'm going to have to Capsize again. That's fine. So I will Capsize the Core Skyfisher so that I do not have to chump block. I misplayed that for sure. I should have activated the Rhystic Circle for his permanents. Alright, so Mulldrifter on Mulldrifter, Seagate Oracle on Goblin. This definitely makes it easier to pay for everything with Rhystic Circle. Even spells. Alright, so we have to get this Rhystic Circle back down. That's of utmost importance. And we'll pass the turn with 1, 2, 3 blue sources up. So we should be able to both Capsize and Condescend. Notably, we do not have a blocker for this creature in the air, so whenever they start attacking, we are going to have to pay with Rhystic Circle. They'll probably return this Oblivion Ring since there's nothing underneath of it, and recast it, trying to get Rhystic Circle again. I'm not sure what I'm going to do in response to that. I'm either going to counter it, or I'm going to play the game where I bounce the Rhystic Circle. So, can I beat 2 burn spells in hand? I can beat 1 burn spell. I can activate Rhystic Circle enough time for these creatures, Capsize the Rhystic Circle, and then Condescend a burn spell. If they have 2 burn spells, I'm not going to have enough mana for all of that. So I need to decide what to do. If I counter this, and they have 2 burn spells, then I can pay for those with Rhystic Circle. Yeah, unfortunately, I think I have to get rid of this Oblivion Ring. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana? No, 6 mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. So I need to activate it with X equals to 7. So that would be like this. 8. So that would be X equals to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They don't have any other mana sources, right? These just filter. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and Condescend this and see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't think we can afford to let them try to get rid of our Rhystic Circle again. Okay, our opponent has let that resolve. We have a Journey to Nowhere and an island in our hand, or on top of our library. We definitely don't want the island. Although we are hurting on blue sources, I don't think we're hurting on it that much that we need to draw an island. The Journey to Nowhere is interesting because it means we have to pay less with these core Skyfishers to get rid of them. However, I don't think we have time for that either, because as long as there's one in the air, we're going to have to pay for them. And getting rid of one of them is not really anywhere near as good as getting rid of them both. Kuldotha Rebirth, sacrificing Ichor Wellspring to draw another card and put some tokens on the battlefield. Taking the 3 with that Lightning Bolt meant that all of that damage that we could take is lethal now. So every creature we have to prevent the damage with Rhystic Circle. Every spell we have to stop, so that is a pretty big deal. We've only played 1 Tranquil Cove so far. We have 3 of them left in the second half of the deck, so if we could find one of those, that would actually be pretty nice. Okay. I don't think we can afford to Capsize here, just like before. We still have to pretend they have a burn spell in hand. They've used 3 Galvanic Blast and 1 Lightning Bolt. I don't know if we can beat 4 more burn spells if they actually play the full 4 of each, but I guess we will see. Alright, we draw a Seagate Oracle. What do we do now? So we have 1, 2, 3 blue sources. So I think we'll start with a Mulldrifter. And the reason for this is we need to hit more land drops. And I think paying 5 mana is worth it. And this also gives us a blocker. So if our opponent tries to attack in, and we activate Rhystic Circle and are successful, that means we can eat 2 Goblin tokens and make it easier for the next time, which incentivizes them to not attack, which in turn saves our mana. So we can Capsize in a turn and do other fun stuff like that. So we actually had 4 blue sources, I miscounted, because we still have 3 after using the 1. We can't... Let's see, if I pay 6 right here. So we have 9 mana, plus 8 is 17, plus 2 more is 15. So if I Capsize, I'll only have 9 mana remaining. Then our opponent could bolt us 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and be able to pay more times than us. So yeah, Capsize would take us too low on mana at the moment. Signet. That's not very helpful here. It does give us more blue sources, however, what we need is more mana. So let's do this calculation again. We have 3 of each Tron land, so that's 21 mana. And then we have 3 more lands, it's 24 and 25. Now if I capsize into their turn, that's 19 mana remaining. And they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 mana. So that would be plenty. So yes, I'm going to pass the turn and plan to condescend Journey to Nowhere. Or Capsize Journey to Nowhere. To make them have to deal with a Ulamog's Crusher again. Glinthawk. Okay. They're going to pick up a Prophetic Prism and keep drawing. That is okay. This deck has no way to force the opponent to draw a card, so I cannot hasten the 15-turn, now 14-turn clock minimum that they're under by drawing themselves out. They play an Ancient Den. Firebolt. Okay, so I'm going to have to... Oh, they're targeting Muldrifter. That's interesting. They're not targeting me. Well, I can let that resolve. And they're going to attack, presumably, and make me pay all the mana here? No. Okay, well, Muldrifter is a sorcery, so it has to flash back at sorcery speed. So I think I'm still going to go for the plan of trying to Capsize Journey to Nowhere. Got to figure out the most efficient way to tap my mana here. Okay, so Capsize targeting Journey to Nowhere. That works. Ulamog's Crusher is online. And I will attack. I'll play my land second main phase so they don't know that I can gain life. They have enough power to put in front of this to kill the Crusher again. Let's see if they try to. Okay, nope, they're just chump blocking it. That's fine. I'm going to play a Tranquil Cove, and I'm going to pass the turn. So one thing our opponent could do is attack all out, make us pay with the Rhystic Circle, and then try to bolt us in their second main phase, or on our turn, and then bolt us again on their turn, which would definitely be scary. So we have one Firebolt in the graveyard that we have to keep in mind at all times that they can flash back. What are they picking up here? An Ichor Wellspring, okay. Alright, they're playing that, down to 11 cards in library. And they have 2 fresh permanents that they can sacrifice to the Crusher as well. It would be nice if they started sacrificing lands to the Crusher to make Rhystic Circle easier to pay for. However, it does not seem like that's going to be the case anytime soon. And they have a Muldrifter. Okay. So I think I might be able to Capsize twice this turn. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sources of Capsize. So let's go ahead and just tap all our mana and see what that does for us. So I can definitely afford to Capsize once and still pay for Rhystic Circle activations. So I'm going to start with this Muldrifter because it lets them draw more cards. So if they try to recast the Muldrifter, they're in danger of decking themselves faster, which is fine with me. Then I'm going to Capsize, let's see, a bounce land, so they'll have less mana to work with, or a land that they currently have up, so it'll be easier on my current turn. I think a bounce land is better. So do they have less red mana or less white mana? It looks about the same. I'll bounce it. Is it Guildgate? And now I'll pass the turn. I don't have any more blue mana to do that again with. Okay, and our opponent has to discard a hand size, and they get rid of the Is It Boilerworks. Now we're going to attack and see how our opponent's going to block this time. They get rid of the Prism and the Wellspring. They go down to 8 cards in library. Okay, that's fine with us. And they take 8. We still haven't drawn our Carvex Torch, or we could have potentially killed them right now and still have mana up to prevent them from bolting us like 3 times in response. So let's do the ever-present Rhystic Circle calculation again. So they have 19 lands plus creatures, and we have to assume they're going to have an untapped land. So that would be 20. So we have 21 mana just with our Tron lands alone. So 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 extra mana to go around with. So we could pay for a bolt at the end of our turn right now pay for all their creatures next turn as well, even if they keep on paying. I think I'm just going to pass the turn again and potentially use Capsize and count on them decking themselves. I like the way this game is progressing at the moment. Alright, they're cycling a Forgotten Cave, 7 cards left. They draw for the turn, 6 cards left in library. They're also down to only 7.5 minutes left on the clock with 2 games after this, potentially. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm not far behind them, but I am behind them. Okay, interesting. So they have a core Sanctifiers kicked, and they're going to try to destroy Rhystic Circle. I think this follows the same logic as before, and I have to condescend this. Because if I activate this in response, I can get rid of all of their creatures dealing damage this turn, but I can't take care of the Firebolt. So if I Capsize, then I'm locked into condescending the Firebolt. And I don't really like where that's at. If I'm locked into playing the Condescend later for a very specific spell, I might as well play it now and not complicate things. So our opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. So I need to do this with X equal to 10. So I need 11 mana. So let's go 3, 4, 5, 6, or 11. Filter 1 to a blue. Cast this for X equals to 10. Just double check one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So our opponent should not be able to take care of this. If they have another core Sanctifiers after this, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. They'll still be able to play a Firebolt even after. So we could be in big trouble here. We'll see. I'll put a Mine on the bottom and a Tranquil Cove. If we live through this turn, I don't think we're going to need a Tranquil Cove. I think what we're going to need is a Caravix Torch if we live through this turn and we're still digging for a specific card. Our opponent is evoking Muldrifter. That's fine with me. They're going to be going down to 4 cards in library. At this point, I should be able to beat any number of burn spells, even if, well, maybe not if every card in their hand is a burn spell, but I should be able to beat even if they have 4 Lightning Bolt and 4 Galvanic Blast in their deck. Just because of the amount of mana I have with Rhystic Circle. Play a Prophetic Prism, go down to 3 cards in library, and 4 mana available. And they cast another Core Sanctifiers. Let's see if they played a land for the turn, because that changes things very dramatically. So our opponent has not played a land for this turn. So we can't really let this resolve, because they could bounce the, or they could kill the Rhystic Circle, and then play a mountain and bolt us, and there'd be nothing we could do about it. Unfortunately, we also don't have a means of countering this. So I think we're just going to have to let it resolve and hope our opponent doesn't have untapped land plus a bolt. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, this was the bad scenarios if they had a second Core Sanctifiers, which they do. So I'm going to let them put this on the stack. They target that. I need to activate this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in response. So I'll go ahead and do that. I don't need to get rid of one of the goblins because I can always block it with a Seagate Oracle. So that's Core Skyfisher number 2. Or number 1, rather. Core Skyfisher number 2. Core Skyfisher number 3. Glinthawk. And one of the Goblin tokens. And I think that I'm ready to let them have this. Okay. And now we just have to hope they don't go land Bolt. If they do, I don't think I can do anything about it. Capsize does not do anything. Okay, they passed the turn. Perfect. So they have to discard hand size. They discard Azorius Chancery. Alright, we'll go ahead and attack with Ulamog, see what that does. They finally get rid of lands. And this Rhystic Circle that we've had in hand for absolutely forever is finally relevant. So we get to play our other Rhystic Circle. And then I think we're good to go. Unless they have yet another Core Sanctifiers. That's absolutely possible. And we win the game. Excellent. And we have plenty of, well, not plenty of, we have 40 seconds more on the clock than our opponent, so we need to remember to play fast next game, even though I'm commentating. Okay, so for this deck, Fade Away could be good, specifically against the card Kuldotha Rebirth. So that's something to keep in mind. Circle of Protection Red is not quite good enough, because it doesn't take care of the flyers in the air. Aura Blast could be very good against Journey to Nowheres and Oblivion Rings that they're pretty likely to keep in. Divine Offering, I don't really think this is good enough. I don't think they have enough artifacts that we care. All their artifacts are cheap. They don't really do anything. I definitely don't want to destroy like an Ichor Wellspring with this. Sunlances, they don't take care of the most important creatures, the big ones in the air, even though they do hit Muldrifters and, I guess, tokens. Dispels and Negates. Dispels do counter burn spells, which is good. Relic of Progenitus takes care of Firebolts, which is good. So what's bad in our deck? Repeals against tokens is nice. It costs 1 blue mana to kill a goblin token, although that's only part of the spell. So I'd rather be able to counter that up front than have to repeal a token. Rhystic Circle is still our means to victory. Journey to Nowhere is still important. Oblivion Ring is important for their Oblivion Rings and Journey to Nowheres. Capsize is not as good against Perilous Research, but as we saw, it looks like they're only playing 1 Perilous Research. Karvek's Torch is a nice way to just end the game out of nowhere, which means I also want Rolling Thunder. So I want all these cards, but I don't have anything I really want to take out, which is certainly unfortunate. We're going to be on the draw, so Condescend is certainly going to be worse. I could just take out 4 Condescend for these spells. Probably not a Rolling Thunder, but maybe 4 of these. Fade Away seems pretty greedy, especially since they've shown they're willing to leave mana up. So I think I'll play a Dispel and Negate. Is the Relic that important when we just saw 1 Firebolt in their whole deck? Yeah, probably not. I'd probably rather just have a Dispel for a burn spell. So let's do this. 2 Dispels, a Negate, and an Aura Blast. In for the Condescends. Alright, game 2. Our opponent is on the play. This hand is keepable, because we have a turn 2 Prism and a turn 3 Oracle. Our opponent leads with Great Furnace. Do we want to play a map? I think we do. We can play this tap land later, because we can still get blue mana from our Prophetic Prism. And this way, if we draw a second Tron land on our next turn, then we'll just get 3 Tron lands on turn 3, play the Prism, and be doing great. Ooh, our opponent's stuck on lands. This is very good for us. So we'll pay a Plains, a Prophetic Prism, and now we can play an Oracle next turn, or a Journey to Nowhere if necessary. Our opponent is Galvanic Blasting us for 2. That's very interesting. I would wait until I could turn that on with Metalcraft, but I'm actually pretty happy to be taking... Oh, they don't want to discard a hand size. That makes sense. So they're just getting the card out of their hand now. Alright, against an opponent who's stuck on lands, I want to end the game as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, I have to draw Tron lands to do that. So I'm just going to play Seagate Oracle for now and look for a Tron land that's not a power plant. And we're taking 2 damage, presumably, or maybe 3 from a bolt. Oh, Pyroblast, okay. So it's a very strong counter spell, very good sideboard spell, along with Hydroblast, which does the same thing for red permanents and spells. And we're just going to go with another Seagate Oracle. If they happen to draw 2 of their sideboard cards, then good for them. But we're still going to try. Alright, show me a Tron land. A mine, perfect. 2 early in the game for Torch. This doesn't tap for 2 yet, so I'm not going to play it. Although I could play it and then crack and then have Tron next turn, I'd rather sequence my untapped and tapped lands better. I don't think they could have sideboarded into an all-burn plan, given the amount of non-burn cards in their deck to begin with, but they keep on wanting to not discard a hand size. So this makes sense. So I could play Rhystic Circle right now. I could also just play a Muldrifter. Muldrifter does get hit by Pyroblast, though. Yeah, as weird as it is, I think... Yeah, I think I'm just going to go ahead and get the Rhystic Circle online. And then I'll crack Expedition Map next turn and have Tron for being able to activate it whenever I want to. This also means my opponent can't Man-Phase Bolt me unless they draw a land. Alright, our opponent's passing the turn. And they're discarding the hand size, they're discarding a Prophetic Prism. Okay. So we're going to... how much mana are we going to have after we do this? I don't have enough time on my clock to think about it. I'm deciding whether I'm going to tap a Plains and a Remote Isle or a Plains and a Tron land, and I decided I'm going to hit a Tron land. So now I'm going to play a Expedition Map and let the mana go away. And now I can Capsize at the end of their turn, which should be very strong against an opponent who's locked out of plain lands. Like I mentioned in the deck tech, Capsize against bounce lands is just a beating. Our opponent will probably concede here, because they're going to have to discard 2 cards as well. And they have no lands. And we'll see what our opponent does. They discard Journey to Nowhere and the Chancery. Okay, so they discarded both of their lands. That's pretty interesting. Tranquil Cove is a fine draw. We'll go ahead and play our Muldrifter and pass the turn. And our opponent sees the writing on the wall and they concede the match. So we took down match 2 due to a pretty awesome Capsize that did a lot of work for us in both games. And basically just drawing out the game 1 with the star of the deck, which is Rhystic Circle. Alright, let's see how match 3 goes.